Hello, everybody, and welcome to Let's Share Stories. I was about to say Let's Fix Stories. I am one half of your host. I am Jared,
I am another half. I am Jaylon.
and today we have a couple of special guests with us. We have. I meant to ask if you guys wanted us to say your last names or not. Sometimes people don't. Sometimes people do.
Yep,
But
that's
okay.
fine.
So we have, we have an author. The author Jeff Mills here, who wrote the book Outcasts of Time.
Right.
And then we also have the founder of the publishing company, Long Story Publishing. So we have them both here. We're going to discuss Jeff's book. We're going to talk a little bit about publishing and whatever else happens to come up. We will talk about as we are known to do. So how are you guys doing today? It's good to have you.
We are
Well, thank you.
good.
Good.
Yes.
Doing well.
Thank you for having us. We're excited.
Awesome.
This is our first interview, so we're a little,
No way. We will hold your hand all the way through this process. It'll keep it as
Yeah.
painless as possible.
This is a really great first interview because we honestly just like press record and then pretend that it's not recording while we just have like the conversation of a lifetime and dig into all the crazy topics.
sweet.
So just to get us started, we're gonna, get us all warm and cozy. So what's been creatively energizing the both of you lately?
Creatively recently, well, probably not a whole lot for the past few months as I have been growing a baby and then birthing a baby. So I've put a lot of things on pause. But
Fair enough.
but I would say the past 5 weeks is when I've really been like, okay, I've been home with the baby and I'm like, all right, I can get back into this. So I think just kind of wanting to build something for her to have one day has really been inspiring me too. I want her to have maybe a company she wants to run or whatever it is, but just something that I can give to her. So that has been recently what's kind of been motivating me and getting me in the creative flow again.
For me, I
Building.
guess for me, just waking up is motivation.
Mm.
I come up with some of the strangest ideas, and I'll kind of stew over them for weeks or months, and then they explode. I can't stop it.
I would describe Jeff as similar to Brandon Sanderson in the way that every time I feel like I talk to this guy, he's like, oh, by the way, I wrote another 5 books. I've got he's like, here's some napkins of my notes. Here's some things. And I'm just like, Jeff, I'm still working on like the first 4 you sent me. I'm like, I need some time. But I love it about him because he's constantly rolling out ideas and books and things, which I think his creativeness helps me to like, okay, let's keep going. And it inspires me as well. So
Cool.
it's pretty cool.
Awesome. Jeff, you have a superpower. Tell us like where you find that. And also, Grace, that's so beautiful that the stories that you're building is inspired by what the stories that you want to pass on to your daughter.
Yeah.
That's such a beautiful concept.
Thank you.
Yeah, my main superpower is the ability to stand in the exact spot anybody needs to be.
That is a
Right.
superpower.
It's my best thing, but mainly, my brain is just always on, and even when I'm asleep, I'm dreaming these things, and I'll wake up with, I might go to bed wondering what am I going to do with my character tomorrow, and I'll wake up with the idea and run from there. And so I just first thing I do is when I wake up with my coffee is turn on the computer and start writing.
Mm.
And sometimes it's a novel, sometimes it's notes, sometimes it's just piddling around till I think of something good. And so there's about 100 books ready to go.
Wow. Grace, you're going to be very busy.
Yes. For sure.
I read
For
the
sure.
I read the first chapter of Outcasts of Time today, just because I wanted to get a
Sweet.
feel for who Jeff was, because I'm a big believer in like you learn a lot about the author when they write, and I wanted to get a feel for his style. First of all, you're a fantastic writer. I just want to say that. So please go and buy this book because I thoroughly enjoyed just the first chapter. I was like, I'm going to continue reading this. But
Really great.
what I loved about it is it gave me to me it felt very much like the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy when I was reading, and it
Love that.
was humorous, and I just felt, and I also really liked your main character, because I'm also very socially awkward. So I understand, like, I was like, socially awkward guy saves the world. I'm here for that. So,
You've got to
uh,
destroy it a few times first, though.
yes. That's fair. That's fair. Um,
Sometimes you have to set yourself up as the hero.
Right.
exactly.
He'll save it in spite of himself, you know.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about the book. And Jaylon, I'm gonna let you uh talk to Jeff a little bit, ask some questions, and we'll dive in. Me and Grace can dive in when we feel the spirit calling us to it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, so I also was very excited learning about the story Outcasts of Time, and I was curious what inspired you to write this story beyond just the characters and the plot. What was it at the core of this story that was really calling you
And
to write it down?
well, it's strange. When I was a sophomore in college, way back in the late 1900s, um,
Before I was born.
uh,
Jared and I were just having this conversation today.
I woke up one in the middle of the night with this horrible, horrible nightmare, and I wrote down every detail I could think of. And the next day, I started taking notes, and that was the impetus for this novel. And
Mm.
over the next few years, I tinkered with it some. Then I wrote it and rewrote it, and took about 30 years to get it the way I wanted.
Mm.
And
Mm. And then
and then Grace came along, and we changed some more.
it was things not much about the writing itself. It was more of he was still stuck in the 1990s. Or right? That's when you said you wrote it.
Yeah,
The
yeah. It
80s,
started off in the
90s.
90s, middle 90s.
So there was some words and some things that I was like, maybe not. Shift that just a little bit. And he is very good with constructive criticism. And part of our story starts when I was like, 15?
Mhm.
He let me read one of his stories, and I was not very nice at the time. And I was just like, what are you even talking about? So he has given me lots of grace in this. So I applaud him for the grace that he has shown me. But yeah, his works are awesome. I love reading them. But yeah.
That's awesome. I am really curious to hear like how you guys met and connected and started building. This is kind of stealing some of Jared's questions, but we'll just start with like how did you guys get connected and start working together?
It's really funny.
Yeah, strangely enough, writing is not my only job. I have several, and I've worked in a grocery store for a quarter of a century, and her parents came in, and I got to know her parents as customers, and so through
And
them, I got to know Grace,
yeah,
and
I think he was over at my parents' house a few weeks ago for like a dinner party, and we were trying to figure out how long they had known each other, and I'm pretty sure they started shopping at his store before I was born. So
probably.
he's literally seen me grow up.
Oh.
You're about, I guess, my parents' age or
Oh,
so.
your parents are probably younger than me. Everybody's younger than me.
But we have known each other a very long time. And it wasn't until I was probably about 15 or 16 that he told me that he had written a novel based like in high school. And he was like, do you want to read it and just tell me what you think? And at that time, I was already wanting to write and publish and do stuff. So that was like the best thing anybody could ever ask me. I went around saying, I'm an editor, I'm a publisher, all of the things. And he let me. He was like, yeah, sure. So,
She was more excited about it than I was, so that was nice.
yeah. So we've known each other a very long time. And yeah, he's been that like family friend that's just always there, And so it's pretty cool. And I tried to get him for years to work on the publishing company, and eventually we did it. So
Nice.
yeah.
So out of all the like 100 manuscripts that you have, Jeff, what was it about this one that made you both decide this is the one that we're going out?
This one was first.
Okay.
This one was my big novel, my first novel. The one the characters have been a part of me for 30 years, and I
Mm.
feel like they're almost family to me. They're
Mhm.
they're they're as real to me as they are to each other in the book.
Mm.
So they had to be first.
Fair enough. Speaking of characters, Simon begins as someone, socially awkward and displaced. Why was it that character that you started at the edge of the world? What was it about that character that said you need to be here?
Basically, he's the fish out of water,
Mm.
and he is the least likely person to ever make an impact on the world,
Mm.
and so he had to be the one to make the biggest impact on it.
Mm.
He's kinda stands for the little guy.
I love that. I love stories that take the unexpected route, especially when I feel like those are the stories that we need because none of us feel like, even though we are the main characters in our own lives, I feel like all of us live as if we're side characters sometimes. And so having a character who seems unlikely to be the hero is always a good reminder that we should be treating our own stories that we're living as if we are the hero and making those brave choices to live as that, even if we don't feel it.
What what kind of stories what kind of stories do you guys like outside of, what you've written? What kind of stories do you guys like? Because I always tell Jalen this, and when we're talking to clients of ours and stuff like that, I really like to know what inspires you? What kind of stories inspire you and that kind of thing?
You go first.
There are several authors that I grew up with,
Mhm.
whose works that made a big impact on me. Anywhere from Jules Verne to Edgar Rice Burroughs, to probably the first big impact for me was a writer named Piers Anthony,
Mhm.
who's been writing fantasy novels for at least the last 50 or 60 years and still writing them. He still comes out with about one every year at least.
Oh.
So things like that have been a big inspiration, and they're I don't know, books that really made an impact when I was growing up, and so I kind of try to write now what I would have been passionate about when I was in high school.
Mhm. Did writing this book change how you think about time, fate, or your own life?
It helped me to do a lot of research on different time periods and see how life is totally different in basically every era than what it is right now. So it does kinda help to look at things from a different perspective to see maybe not be as judgmental
Mm.
because the the motivations for people are, different depending on their time periods and their societies. So things that we might think are, just horrific now, they might not have thought so much then. Or
Mhm.
maybe things that we think are no big deal, they might have been horrified by.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
That's a really good point. I find it really fascinating to read stories. I always have since the time I was little, and that's kind of why I just always knew I wanted to work with stories because that kind of magic that stories have to put yourself in someone else's shoes and live in someone else's perspective for a while. Jared and I and us at One Brilliant Arc, we talk all the time about how storytellers are the empathy teachers of the world because story is the only thing that can really give you that experience of living through someone else's life. Um, and I think that stories are a great way to show that your perspective may not be everything that you think it is. There's other perspectives in the world, and throughout all of time there have been other perspectives. And sometimes it's hard to confront that reality when our tendency is to be selfish and think that our perspective is the only correct one.
Mhm.
Do
I
you
think you
Yeah.
see a lot of that in Outcasts of Time. You
Mm.
see the different perspectives of two characters. Um, and it's really beautiful the way that he brings it all together. You have, one that is dead set on one thing and the other that's dead set on the other, and now they're stuck together. And it's like, how are they going to survive each other, yet alone the end of the world?
Mhm.
So it's really cool the way that he brought that. So, how you were talking about the different perspectives, he does a really good job in this book bringing those stories together.
Wo
You're welcome.
Would you say that it changed some of your well, let me preface that first because, when working on my novel, one of the things that I did was that it helped me do is helped me gain empathy for some of the characters that my characters were based off of, people that were in my life, people that and it really helped me to understand them a lot better by writing that, and it's like, oh, well, if I'm thinking about it from a different person's perspective, why would they do the things that they're doing, and it helped me to maybe shift some of the stances that I had, or the beliefs that I had. Did this experience do that for you? I know you said that when you started writing this was in the 90s. Things have drastically changed, as we've seen, as the way we has it changed some of your stances on things or your views on things?
I think my core beliefs are pretty much, solid, but, you know, some of the research and some of the writing, it helps me to see, what might motivate other people. My 2 main characters are about as different as night and day,
Mhm.
and, one of them I can relate to much more than the other, but, writing the one I couldn't relate to, I kinda learned how to see things from that perspective. So,
Mhm.
uh
There's one point in the book, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It's like in the middle of the book, and it's kind of the like the arc, and it gets to where the two characters finally understand each other.
Mm.
It might even be like, I don't know if it's dead set in the center, but he did a really good job of showing both of that. So I think you're not giving yourself enough credit for the one character. You understood that character way more than you thought.
Okay.
And when they come together in that moment, it's like, wow, they finally understand each other, and it just ties everything together, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. So I don't think you give yourself enough credit.
This is something that as the editor, I also as we're talking, I think it's so funny we have a pair of like an editor slash company admin and then the author. Um, we have two pairs here, and I relate to like. Thank you so much, Jared, for your grace with me in the stuff that you've given to me and I've ripped apart, and continuing to trust me anyway.
Right.
But also, like, the yelling at them that they don't give themselves enough credit is definitely a thing.
Yeah,
This
100%.
is true.
And I think sometimes I have to tell myself as editing, it's his work. And I don't want to change his work. That's how like this whole publishing thing came about, was I didn't because I've never finished a novel, but I have started a million. I feel like I have squirrel syndrome or something, to where I'll start one thing and then go to the other, and then years later I'll go back and I'm like, why didn't I finish that? But I feel like my biggest fear was I didn't want somebody to change my work. I wanted them to help me and help my work, but I didn't want them to make it, just like this cookie cutter, oh, everybody's doing fantasy, everybody's doing this type of plot. I didn't want that. And I didn't want that for Jeff either. So I kind of had to get beside myself for a lot of things where I might have personally written it different, but that didn't mean that I needed to change it. So there's, that kind of thing, because we want to be author first publishing. I want it to be Jeff's work. I want it to be your work. I might just help polish it, but I'm not going to go in there and like completely rework everything.
Well, I'm a harsh editor. I mean,
Yeah, by the
she doesn't get the first draft.
yeah, by the time it gets
I've
to
I've
me,
cut I've cut 10% of it by the time she gets it.
oh yeah, by the time it gets to me, I get a copy sent, and it's like draft 7. Like
Yep.
I don't even get anything remotely. So then at that point, the actual editing is just like, hey, this comma is backwards, or hey, this is missing, something.
Mhm.
And it's very rare that I really need to go in and change something. It might be, hey, this is a little too 90s. We need you to update it.
So what does this word mean? They stopped using it back in the 1950s.
Exactly. But yeah, by the time it gets to me, it's not that I don't have to pay attention, but there's a lot of things that I just don't even have to worry about, because he's already, done that part.
Jared, this might be a really good transition into your questions for Grace about the publishing.
Yes.
But yeah, what you said about like we want to make sure that the story is not changed from the author's intent. That's something that we work with a lot at One Brilliant Arc as well. That was what our goal was in creating this. So I'll let Jared explain more as the founder.
Yeah, what really stood out to me when I was reading up a little bit on what you were doing, was the author first publishing thing, because it's very similar to a philosophy that I have, which is artist first. Everything that we do is always artist first. I believe in, as an artist myself, as an author myself, and filmmaker, and the things that I do, I wholeheartedly believe in putting the artist first, protecting them. And I feel like you have all these companies that are always thinking about profit first and
Yes.
the artist after that. If there's something left over, we'll give you some. It's like, no, I think we have to do that. So that really resonated with me. But like, I want to ask you, when you say author first publishing, what does that look like when it's difficult, when it's not an easy thing to do it, and when you have in whatever the circumstances may be, what does that look like for you?
I mean, it would depend on the situation
Mhm.
for sure. But so besides Jeff, because Jeff has written the book and he's, the author, he's also a part of the company. He helped found, I can't talk. He helped to found it. That is not right.
It is right.
It is right.
It is. It shouldn't be, but it is right.
We co-founded.
I co-founded. We also have a third partner, Sarah. So
She wouldn't fit on the screen with us.
no, we'd have to.
Sorry, Sarah.
Have to
We'll
suspend
put a
her
picture
upside
of
down
you
from the
here.
ceiling.
Yeah. So between the three of us, I feel like we communicate through everything. And so depending on what the situation would be, if I don't know what I'm going to do, I'm going to, talk to everybody. So it's very much a collective decision on what it is. There's certain things that I personally don't really want to read and edit. Sarah might not have a problem with it. I might not want something more like historic and very detailed. Jeff thrives on that. So depending on what it is, I think we can find a workaround. Depending on what it is. But ultimately, if it's something that I felt like doesn't align with my, personal moral values, things like that, it would be a conversation that would be had of like, hey, is this what you're really wanting to publish? Tell me why. But again, it would really depend on what it is. But between the three of us, I think we're able to talk through whatever might be an issue and, go from there. But as of right now, Jeff is our only published book currently. So we haven't
Congratulations.
we haven't fully gotten to that point yet. I'll be really honest, but eventually.
There you go.
Hey,
I feel like we would not tell a writer, you got to change this.
We would be
or
like, you
gotta
suck.
Yeah, we would. Well, you might tell me that, but I think it'd be more like we would offer suggestions,
Yeah.
how possibly to improve it,
Yeah.
and if they want to go that route.
We have an idea. Me and Sarah really went over it. I do have a Substack post. I had just created it, and it was basically my idea from when the time I was 13 of creating long story publishing. And, I picture a high-rise, publishing building and a slide that goes from the very top all the way down with a bunch of kittens and puppies running around. That was my idea.
I want to work there so bad.
I wanted it to be a place that people wanted to work.
You're gonna want to work on my yacht in Tahiti.
Oh,
That's where I'm gonna be writing them. So.
Yeah. So my idea was to always just have a fun environment and to be able to just create a space where people want to work, but also people are inspired, So a part of that is I wanted to have a group, we would call it maybe like the Red Team or something. And I think I got inspired from like a military movie where they basically have, they lay out their plan and then they have a bunch of people that poke holes in it. Of like, this is where you're wrong, this is where you're wrong, this is where you're wrong. So I wanted to have almost like a tier system. So if Jeff had a book and he's like, I want you to completely destroy it and tell me everything that you think I should fix, we have a team that would do that. Now, if Jeff was like, I like my book how it is, I just want the bare minimum, like tell me if there's a major plot hole or, grammar.
I don't want that team attacking my book.
Right. I feel like there's some people that might want a little bit more structure, a little bit more like help with it. So I wanted us to have tier systems, like we could just edit it. We could edit it with some suggestions, so I really wanted to have that different level of things. But have our own military ops, our own,
I love this.
I'm a little scared now. I'm gonna.
I have that effect on people.
So
It is a really.
go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Jared.
No.
I was gonna just circle back to, it's a really tricky balance when, as editors, trying to help people speak this language of story structure while keeping the intent behind their words. That's why we ask about, like, whenever we're interviewing authors, we always ask, what was the heart behind this story? Not just what is the story about with the plot and the characters. Tell us about what was behind it, what inspired it, what did you want people to feel when they walked away from this? What did you want to stick under people's skin once they were done reading?
You should read chapter, was it 46? Man,
Yeah,
when I read that,
sorry about that.
that was the nightmare part. That was the part that came from the nightmare.
Right? No,
If only.
I am slightly trained in martial arts, and when I read that last chapter, I was this close to finding him and strangling him. I will just say.
I apologize in advance. There's a book 2.
There
I
is a book
promise.
2. But man, when I read that, I was like, I'm going to throw my computer and then make him buy me a new one. It's amazing. You should read
Jared.
Do not give Jaylon any ideas, please.
No, but having that, the work that we do at One Brilliant Arc, we specifically, Jared had the heart specifically to work with authors who have faced silencing in the past from the industry, or maybe their own self-doubt, or other people in their lives who just implanted that self-doubt in them. And also working with authors who are from marginalized backgrounds where the cookie cutter, this is what's marketable, this is what's profitable, does get imposed on them, and then their truth that they have to say isn't actually written as the truth that it is. So that's where, as editors, I feel like we all need to take a note from what you're doing at Long Story Publishing, and remembering that, we're not just editing for what can be marketable, what can make money, but author first is making sure that the authentic voices of these writers and these artists is shining through, and their message that was the heart behind the story is still there by the end, after we've rearranged everything to make the story stronger.
That was a big thing that I didn't want that. With publishing, it's such a big monopoly. And it's very difficult to figure out how to do it, because these, traditional publishers basically own everything with everything else. And so it was really difficult. If you want to self-publish, I don't know if you've looked into that. It's expensive and it's difficult. You've got marketing, you've got so many things that you have to worry about. And then if you want to go with a traditional publisher, you can't just submit a book. You have to query and then get a book agent and hope that they like it. And then from there, they have to then go advocate for you. And I didn't want that. I wanted it to be, you, Jared, have your book. It's ready to go. You can submit it straight to us. I didn't want to have this middleman, this, thing. And it was really hard to come up with a way to do that, because it is so difficult. And I realized that there's probably going to be times where we publish something that we end up losing money for a bit, because it might not be, exactly what's in. But if that's what the author wants, that's their work, that's their beauty. Now, there are some guidelines that we're going to follow, because I would like to make money, but it's not...
Breaking even is nice.
Yeah, it is not... It's not the goal, the main goal, I should say. I would love to have, 20 authors by the end of next year. That would be great. And hopefully that will accumulate things, but...
If we make too much money, we won't be motivated.
Gotta be humble, gotta stay honest.
I have no money, so I'm very motivated.
I have a 13-week-old, so I could use a little extra. She needs all the cute outfits, so.
Yes.
Diapers are fine.
Yeah, those rack up some bills.
Oh, yeah.
I think that the idea of recognizing the big five, we were talking about that, the big five in the publishing world, and now they are pretty much the ones that control everything. And of course, yes, you go your own way too, and which is always possible. But I love the idea of and this is happening also in the film industry as well. Is we're living in what I like to believe is a renaissance for creative individuals, the independent the
Mhm.
independent artist is we're living in that renaissance where the gatekeepers are no longer necessary, and I think that is so exciting. So when we have people that are doing what you guys are doing, when people are doing what One Brilliant Arc is doing, I think that is so exciting because I feel like we're going to create so many different opportunities for so many
Yep.
people who otherwise would have never done it. When I was say when I was a young boy, also in the early 1900s, it was a lot harder to to get a book published. You didn't go on Amazon and just press a button and it was done. You had to be traditionally published. You had to send it off, or if you were a filmmaker, you had to go out to Hollywood and you had to do all those things. And now it's like, no, I can do it from my own home office, and I can type and do all these other things, and I can just send it off and do whatever. And so creating organizations that facilitate that and make that a lot easier, I think is fantastic. So I'm so excited that you guys are doing that. And there's always, there's a writer born every minute. So I think that there's tons of opportunity for all of us to do just that. I do, however,
Absolutely.
want to hop into the time machine and go back to a younger Grace and talk a little bit more about what drove you to wanting to do editing and getting that. What was like your passion for that? What drove that passion for you?
Um, I mean, I've always had that creative mind.
Hmm?
Some people might call it ADHD. I don't know. But for me,
That's neither here nor there.
I I just love, I don't know, I guess I'm always in my head. So I always have story ideas, I have TV show ideas, I have movie ideas constantly. I'm that one that is watching a movie or a show and I'm like, yeah, that dialogue is dumb, And so I always have wanted to fix
I
things.
know those shows.
Yeah. Things. And I guess I've always just put myself into whatever I'm watching, I'm that character. Whatever I'm reading, I'm that character. I have a sticker on my computer that says I'm 80% the last book I just read, which is, I
Yes.
feel like, where I'm at. So I've always wanted to be that creative person. And I think when I was younger, I just didn't really know how to do that. And so I would just write things. And I'm so glad the Holy Spirit is the one that stopped this. I had Wattpad. I never published on it. I am very thankful that the Savior of the world saved me from that because that would have been terrible. But that definitely gave me the idea of like, wow, I could write and I could publish my own book because I had looked into it. I'm like, wow, that's expensive. I don't know how to do this at 13 years old. And so it just became a thing where I knew that at some point I was going to write my own novels and publish them. I just, it was one of those things like, I know I'm breathing. I know I'm going to do this. I just didn't know when or how. And then, as I got a little older and I read some of his stuff, I'm like, oh, I could do this. So iBooks, or, you can do the same thing that you can with Amazon. You can literally just hit publish.
Mhm.
And I did that with one of his books at 17 years old. And I would walk around like, published books. And he let me do it. Again, he let me do it. He let me create a book cover on my iPhone 4, and it was great. So I've just always wanted to do that, and I knew that I would do that. And it's just been with me this whole time. I think like how his characters have been with him since the 90s, feeling has just been with me probably from the beginning. It's just always been there, that creative need to do something. Plus, I am a critic for a lot of things. So I think that helps me when I look at something like, I wouldn't write it that way. I would write it this way. So I always knew I was going to write at some point. I always knew that I was going to publish things at some point. And, if I could do that with a giant building with puppies and kittens running around, that would be even better.
The calling of the creative is no joke. It's a real thing.
I'll be the one recommending the good taxidermist.
Yeah, well.
No, don't cancel us.
Jeff is my kind of guy.
It's so funny that you mentioned Wattpad because that is also like how I got my start with editing. That was like the community of young writers.
Yes.
Who actually had like good stories on one corner of Wattpad. But I was like, I got into beta reading because of the community there.
Mm-hmm.
That led me to, oh, I can actually edit people's work and I can actually help them to amplify the message that they're trying to say, make
Mhm.
their words more powerful. And I was like, yes, please.
No.
That's
I
awesome.
I liked, I tried to do, Wattpad, I really did. I have ADHD, so, like, I have, like, impulse control issues
Yep.
sometimes, so
Yep.
I went on there and I was fully prepared to have the greatest Wattpad career that any writer had ever had, and I was like I wrote 1 chapter, and, like, 1 person, gave me a like, and I was like, "This is not happening fast enough, and I'm leaving." And so and I never went back. So so
We were all saved. We were all brought to greater and better things.
Am I so old that I've never heard of this
Yes.
thing?
Yes.
It's okay. You're not missing out. It's
No, it's
okay.
Okay.
You were safe.
It's fine.
You were safe.
But lots of current novels came from Wattpad, which I think
Yes.
is pretty
Yeah.
cool. It was a really cool platform.
Definitely.
Um,
For
but
sure.
I'm very glad
sure.
that I never actually published anything. Because there's a part of me that is a perfectionist, as top of
Mhm.
that squirrel syndrome of jumping to different projects.
Mm.
I'm also, if I do something, I want it to be perfect. So I've never finished something because I'm like, it's not done. So I never hit submit because of that.
Is it a lot easier for you to encourage writers who come to you with stories that they need published, and you find yourself being the one who is able to help them out of their perfectionistic spirals and just be like, no, it's good. It might not be perfect, but it holds power just the way it is, and it's time to let it out into the world.
Yes, 100%. I feel like there's a few places in his book that I just kind of gave suggestions, and he was like, oh, yeah, I didn't think about it that way. Or he's like, I don't really know how I want to rewrite this part. And then we just kind of bounce ideas, and he figures it out. So I do feel like I can maybe, I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, some suggestions are really good because I might be the omnipotent writer, but I'm not omnipotent. So if it's a good suggestion, I'll take it.
Yeah. So, clearly not all of my suggestions are good by that answer, but whatever. I'll stop suggesting things now.
Hmm. I think I'm in trouble now.
Yeah.
We need to bring in the kitties. We
Fine,
need to bring in the kittens to
Yeah.
use the situation immediately.
Exactly.
It's also good to see, editor and writer. It's good as a writer, now an editor. I've become an editor. I didn't really want to be at first, but I doing that.
Sometimes you gotta
But
put the hat on.
yeah,
Yeah.
but seeing other writer and editor have similar relationship to me and Jaylon's relationship, because it's very much always been that of just like, I don't know what to write next or what should I do here, and then we're just like bouncing ideas off each other, and then like boom, oh, I got it, let's go. So I love seeing that this is like it's something that everybody deals with, and I like that. Jaylon's my first editor, actually. So this is, and I guess Grace is your first editor, Jeff. So
Yes.
twins. Um, um,
Jared also found me off of Upwork and
Yes.
let me pretend that I was like this. I mean, at that point, I was seasoned. I had been doing it for a while, but very unprofessionally and self-proclaimed. So,
I don't know anything about that, but no.
yeah.
But when you talk about reshaping or helping authors in general, how do you push an author toward excellence without reshaping the voice, without tweaking it and changing it too much? Anyway.
Too much. Well, considering it's mostly just been him,
Mhm.
when I was younger, I didn't do a good job of it. I would just flat out tell him, I'm like, I think this part's stupid. I'm like, this is not. I know there was a particular book. It was based in high school, and I guess some of the kids were texting back and forth, and I'm like, no one texts like that. I'm like, are you an idiot?
Yes, I am.
Oh, my heart.
That
One of
Jeff.
those internet things. I don't know.
Yeah. So at first, I did not do well at all. Recently, though, I think I've just figured out like what is the context he's trying to get across, and then go from there. So okay, this is the context. That means this is where his head's at. I don't feel like this context is fitting this plot or this paragraph. So I might address it like, hey, this part doesn't quite make sense because in this page you said this and this doesn't match. So I feel like I've gotten better at that. Would you say I've gotten better? I mean, you've stuck with me this far.
I try to write better so she won't fuss at me as much.
Same.
That
Same.
motivation.
What would Grace say about this? Oh, wait.
I relate to that. I try to do that
Yeah.
too. I was like, I don't want. I also am not as tough as you, Jeff. As far as if I feel like if Jaylon had ever said like it was stupid, I'd cry and I would be like, I am not a writer anymore. So I respect your you having the tougher skin. I feel like I've gotten better at taking criticism than I mean I feel like I was okay, Jaylon. By the time I met Jaylon, I feel like I was okay at it already, but not as good as I am now. I think I can take it, but I'm not Jeff tier yet. So I'm gonna work towards that.
Well, you gotta think, our relationship, he's known me since I was a baby, so I feel like I kind of have that, like, that relationship where I can look at him and be like, bruh, I don't know what the heck you were trying to come across. But like you said, for the most part, it doesn't get to that point anymore, so we're good.
And he can also pull the I knew you when you were a little brat and you were in diapers.
Exactly.
So
Exactly. And I think
he has that ultimate,
right. And
feel like-
so I think it depends. One of my friends, she gave me her manuscript and I read through it. And I asked her, I'm like, what would you like me to do? Do you want me to just read it and then give a couple comments? Do you want me to find the grammar? Or do you want me to point out if there's anything, that's not lining up? And I did all of that, so I found the few places, but I also was just encouraging her in lots of places. So that's something too. I probably don't do enough of that for him. But again, we've got history.
I had a friend once. I had a friend once that said that if you're gonna make a criticism, you should bookend it with something positive.
Yeah, like a
Say-
compliment
say-
sandwich.
Right. You put the criticism in between two compliments.
Yep.
And that makes it go down a little easier. So,
Yep.
But yeah, with my friend, I just pointed out like, hey, this was great. I really liked this. And then I might go down at one point. Particularly, she was talking about the difference between Queen Anne's lace and water hemlock. And I am a herbalist in a lot of ways. So I just gave her, some advice like, hey, the difference is the queen has hairy legs. Okay, her stem has hair on it. Hemlock does not.
does the king know this?
So I was able to kind of look through that and give her some, insight on that. But she wasn't looking for, the red team and me to like poke through everything. So I think it depends on who it is, what the goal is, and if I feel like I can get away by saying, hey, that part was stupid, or if I can get away with, hey, this was great. Let's fix this, but it's great. If I can. It depends on the book and the person.
So I just do meticulous research so she won't fuss at me.
Side note, I think that Jeff's 101 or 101st book should be Grace and Jeff Save the World, and it should just be about you two because I think you guys are fantastic, and I would totally read about characters like you guys. But okay, so I want to ask some questions that are more geared towards the both of you. So we're gonna go into that. So my first question is, what do you feel like real trust looks like between an author and a publisher?
Well, a lack of ridicule, first of all.
That's definitely
I've
there.
come a long way.
Well, I mean, she's always been supportive. So even if something didn't make sense or it was out of context or was 30 years behind the times, she might make fun of me some, but I knew that
The heart behind it was always.
Yeah, she had my best interest at heart. So
I do think.
She was never mean about it.
Well, I feel like I was mean about it. But
I didn't feel like you were mean about it. You wouldn't have read it otherwise.
that's true. No, I do think there has to be a level of trust, between the two, because I mean, there's a reason why I really haven't even let my husband read a lot of the stories that I've written because there's that part of me that's like, this isn't quite good enough. And so for you to be able to give somebody your work to read is such a big thing. So there really has to be that trust, so between the author and the editor, I think there has to be a level of respect on both parties.
Mhm.
And then ultimately, the editor has to put the book and the author in a place of honor of like, okay, this is your work. I'm getting to do this for you. But at the same time, the author needs to have an understanding of, the editor is in the position that they know. I don't want to say they know best, but they do in a lot of ways. So it's really a balance of, trust and respect on both parts, and just understanding. I think the editor should understand the author a little bit, because kind of how you read the first chapter that you wanted to know who Jeff was before he came on.
Mhm.
It's that same thing. I want to know a little bit about you as a person, and you should know a little bit about me as a person. Because like I said earlier, Sarah's going to be better at editing certain things, and I'm going to be better at certain things. So you might want to meet us both and be like, I think Sarah's going to be better for this book. Or I might read the first 10,000 words and be like, this is great. I don't want to edit it. Sarah, do you want to? So I really think it's a relationship and knowing, I need to know what I'm good at. She needs to know what she's good at. I don't know. Was that way too long of a
No, no.
explanation?
That's a great answer. I'm also curious your take on this. Because I wonder if one of the big strengths that this renaissance of small and indie publishing companies have is a lot of us had a passion and experience in the writer's shoes before
Mm.
we started the work as editors and publishers. Like I started out as a writer and
Yep.
Jared started out as a writer. And I feel like that allows us to have that kind of respect for like
Mhm.
most people don't understand how difficult it is to like give your work over to someone when you've poured your entire heart into it, because any kind of rejection or criticism against that
Feels like a straight
really
stab. Yep.
yeah, it feels so personal.
Yep.
So I wonder if that's one of the big strengths that these smaller publishing companies that we're building have over the big five publishers.
hmm I
Mhm.
also think too, the big five is such a monopoly that all they're wanting is more money. So they have a formula. If you're not fitting in that formula, they're not even going to give you the time of day. I think that indie publishers, we don't care as much about that, and we care about the actual story,
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times about J.K. Rowling, I mean, I think was it like 10 publishers that rejected her before one reluctantly said yes, and
Mhm.
now look at the empire. I
Yeah.
mean, it's pretty crazy.
Well, I mean, how
So
many
Yeah.
times was Stephen King rejected before his first
Yeah.
novel?
exactly.
Yeah.
And a few
Exactly.
people
Yeah.
have heard of him by this point.
Yeah, maybe a few. Maybe
Yeah.
maybe a few listeners might know who he is. Um, But yeah, I think kind of to what you were saying, we have a little bit more of the experience on that level, on the just like the friendship level side of, my writer side and me are one and the same. My
Mhm.
editor side is one and the same, even though they're different sides.
Mhm.
Whereas, honestly, I think, and I have no knowledge of this. This is just me putting this out there. This is not, don't take this for fact. I almost feel like a lot of the big publishers are just running manuscripts through, I'm going to use the word AI. I don't know that it's AI, but running it through a program, a software that sees if it'll even fit. And if it doesn't, if it doesn't have the keywords, if it doesn't have the style, they're not even going to give it the, time of day. And again, I don't know that that's true, but that's kind of what it feels like. It
Mhm.
feels so impersonal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want
I
to be
wonder.
personal.
Yeah, I appreciate that because I wonder if I know that like in Hollywood, what they tend to do is you'll get a reader that'll read. They'll get your script and they'll say they'll read the first 10 pages. Most of the time, it'll be maybe a page or two. And then if it
Yep.
doesn't grab them, they'll throw it to the slush pile. And I
Yep.
imagine that the publishers probably do the same thing in the sense of like they have so many submissions, so many people that are trying to, get in there that it's like, I don't have time for this.
Mm-hmm.
Did the first page really make me feel good? No. All right, throw it out.
Yeah.
But I agree with you that I think that the indie publishers and indie writers or authors, I think that we do make more room for story. We have a little bit more time. Maybe it's because we have less people trying to tell things, so we have the time, and maybe, you know,
Yeah.
when we're all like rich and have tons of people, we may not have the time.
We're all on a yacht in Tahiti.
Yes,
Yeah.
we're all on a
That
yacht
lack
in
of
Tahiti.
motivation.
Exactly. I guess Jeff was right. We would have the lack of motivation to read anymore. But I think for now, I feel like we're good with taking that and making that happen.
Yeah. I think
Uh,
too with that, it's, you know, they have book agents and stuff. I feel like the publishers have their favorite book agents. So you might be really low on the totem pole. You get, you know, accepted by an agent, and then that publisher might not even, you know, give a crap about that person. So they might not even look at that. I feel like they have their favorite, you know, people. So it kind of goes in with that too, where it's very impersonal. You know, it's already almost predetermined. Yeah.
You said that you feel like indie publishers care more about the story. Do you feel like stories still have the power to change people today?
I do. I think so. 100%.
Definitely.
Stories are, you know, you can watch something and it sticks with you. You can read something and it sticks with you. It's not just the last word on the page, it's the feeling that sticks with you. So I 100% think stories.
I get something out of, even if it's a book I don't particularly like, I get something out of every book. I may not like a writing style,
Mhm.
or I may not like, you know, certain themes or intense vulgarity or whatnot. But there's always something in a book that makes it worth reading.
Yeah. And church leadership growing up, it was always you eat the fish but leave the bones. So I feel like you can get something out of any story. A lot of times if I DNF a book, it's because I, you know, whatever it is I didn't like. But then I use that as knowledge of like, okay, I didn't like this, so I'm going to, you know, steer clear of it. So whether it's a good story or bad story, it'll change somebody some way, even if they don't even know it, you know?
Yeah,
Sure.
definitely. I've had the experience of like, I read stories when I was much younger and they stuck with me. And then by the time I was older, I was like, oh yeah, that story left way more of an impact than I thought.
Yep.
How
100%.
often do you DNF? Feels like such a personal question, but I'm gonna ask it. How often do you?
That means did not finish, Jeff. Like, did not finish the book.
Well, I thought
I'm
it was like
sorry, Jeff. I'm sorry.
finding grades, the D or an F.
No.
I didn't
It
understand
means
that.
like you pick up the book and you did not finish it. You threw it out.
Oh, that's only happened to me like twice in my life.
He'll
Oh,
suffer
wow.
through books.
I'll
Wow.
carry
I
him
don't
on to
have the
the
time
end.
for that. I don't have time
That's
for
my
that.
OCD. When I start something, I have to
I
finish it.
I don't start a book till I finish the one I'm working on.
No, I
Yep.
will have 5 different books going at the same time. It must be the ADHD.
Yeah.
So I'll have like 5 different books. Recently, though, I've been in a bad habit of I will leave the last 100 pages of every book and I won't finish them because there's a part of my soul that's like, once I finish it, it's done.
Yes. Oh
And
my
it
God.
makes me sad.
Jared, you found someone who
I did.
understands.
It makes
my
me sad.
thinking all the time.
I want those characters to be a part of me.
That's
And
why
if I finish it, they're gone.
That's why we have sequels.
No, but I mean like the last series, like the last book of a series.
Yeah.
You know, I will read through all of it. And that last bit, I'm like, you know what? If I don't finish it, it's not over.
This reminds me of a podcast episode that we recorded that just lives rent free in my mind, where Jared was talking about like, I like TV shows better than movies because I have abandonment issues, and just like moves on. And then our other editor, Charles, just goes, that was deep.
My husband will get mad at me because we'll be in the middle of a TV series. In the middle of a show, the main character could have just died. And I'm like, all right, I'm done. And I'll leave. And he's like, we have to finish it. I'm like, no, I'm good.
I don't need to. I don't need to do it.
I've already come up with an ending that I'm going to like better than what they did anyway. So it's fine.
I just rewatch movies I've already seen because I know how they are.
I do that. I have a really good British accent because my hyperfixation movie as a child was The Chronicles of Narnia. I can quote the entire thing. I won't, but I could.
They made a movie out of that?
Yeah.
Okay.
We did a podcast episode on Let's Talk Stories about that. I had a lot of thoughts. I'm not a fan, but Jaylon enjoyed it, and so did Charles.
Yes.
So that was That works. My formula, it's not my formula. I can't take credit for it. I forget the guy who did it. But it's a formula I use when it comes to DNFing, and it is you consider that you might live for 100 years if we're all lucky, and then you subtract however old you are from that 100 years, and then whatever number that is, that's the page that you stop reading on if it hasn't grabbed your attention. The idea is that every year you get older, your life is shorter, so you should spend less time reading books that you don't want to read. So that's usually my benchmark. So right now I'm at 30. I'm at 60. 62 is where I stop. So if a book doesn't grab me by page 62, it's got to go. So I recommend it to everybody. I think it's fantastic. Not you, Jeff, because you are a warrior of finishing books. So I,
And
I
not me, because I have that OCD and
yes.
I cannot
Yeah,
not finish what I started.
I can forgive a lot of stuff if the ending is really good. So,
And you got to get
I
to the
like
ending.
a
So.
good satisfying end.
Yes.
Okay. I have two more questions for you guys, and then we're gonna wrap it up. But if someone is listening that feels like an outcast creatively, what would you tell them?
Just keep going. I mean, there's been so many times I've stopped creating books or just anything, and it's like it puts you in a slump. If creating is what you want, keep doing it. You don't have to show anybody. Just show up for yourself. Because eventually I feel like you build that confidence. He has yet to read anything I've ever done. Actually, no.
No, I read
You read
one thing.
one
You gave
thing.
me one chapter.
One,
I
yeah,
liked it.
it was good.
Yeah.
But you have to find that person that'll help encourage you too. If you're an outcast, I feel like everybody is. We assume everybody else has it together. No one has it together. Just keep going.
Yeah, I'm happiest when I'm writing. So those when I'm at work, I look forward to getting home so I can write. I'll write until I can't keep my eyes open anymore, and then I go to bed, and then I read till the book falls on my face. Um, so it's
I think feeling like an outcast with it, you feel inadequate. You feel like you're not supposed to be in this. Like you feel like I have this desire, but is that even where my life goes? Keep going, because you don't know. Your life has been predestined. God has got a path for you. Just keep going.
yeah, it's the outcasts who are going to save the world.
Exactly. Yes. End up back in time and
Love how
2,000
that
years
loops back
before.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Full circle. Full circle. I love it. I love it. Very
It's so
good.
true as well with the, keep going, because if that calling of creativity is on you, I can say from experience as well, it's not going to let go.
Mm-mm.
So you just got to accept that that is
Yeah.
your calling and
Yep.
you have to listen to it. You can wait to listen to it and make your life miserable and prolong the process of having to trudge down the path until you get to the destination. But the calling has got you. You're stuck now.
Yep.
When the choice is, clean the kitchen sink or write a chapter, there's no contest.
Okay, so here's the final question, and you both can answer. You both can do it, or one of you can do it. It's completely up to you. But if you could ask our next guest one question about creativity or publishing or anything, actually, what would it be?
What is the biggest obstacle in publishing that they either have hit before or they are anticipating that they're going to do, come to?
That's a good one.
Yeah. What's the biggest obstacle? Because I want to know what people are struggling with, so then I can come in and fix it. So that's what I would say. What would you ask or say?
Yeah,
Or-
that's pretty good. So I don't know. I would. I'm not even sure what I would ask in that situation. 'Cause I just do what Grace tells me.
Get yourself a Grace. That's the advice. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you guys for being there.
Thank
The
you.
last thing we'll say is let the audience know how they can find you guys, where they can get your book. We'll make sure that we put a link to I think it's Amazon is where it is. Well, I think it's also in Barnes and Noble as well. But we'll
Yep.
we'll
Right.
put a link somewhere so people can buy your book. We'll put it in the post for this and when we put it out. But other than that, let people know where they can find you guys. And go.
Yeah. So you can email us at info at longstorypublishing.com. And then we're also on Instagram, Threads. We're on every platform. We're just not super active at the moment, but we are Long Story Publishing on everything. So, yeah.
Awesome.
If you have questions, send us an email.
Awesome.
Thank you, Grace.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeff, for joining us. This
Thank
was a
you.
fantastic conversation. I hope you guys had as much
Yes.
fun as we did.
We
Oh,
really did. This
definitely.
was awesome.
I
And
enjoyed it.
yeah, we would love
We
more
got new
of
friends for life.
that. Yes. Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you guys for our listeners. Thank you for listening. Hopefully, if you have a book that you are looking to publish and are interested in people who are interested in telling the story, feel free to reach out to Grace and Jeff. And we thank you for listening.